So Jerry was white and Ryan was black. So this is all perfectly okay. I would say this is maybe a little bit early to cut. It's certainly not unplayable, but I think it is, it's certainly going to be an aggressive fight. One thing to remember is that this group is not necessarily locally alive yet. There is a go here. So that's something to remember when you do fight this battle later on, is that depending on the co-threats, you might have to deal with a weak group in the corner. Obviously, if black just backs off here and plays here, this group can live or get something out of it, but it's not. Even this is a little bit struggling. So I think cutting here might be a little bit premature. What you might see sometimes is white playing like this, and then playing like this, which is a little bit better for a little bit of a better fight for white, because white can just choose to play here and connect out. But I don't even think you need to do that yet. I would just play here and probably Tanuki and leave it. I think that's a little bit safer. I definitely would not leave. Would definitely not Tanuki now, because you certainly don't want white to get this move here, which both damages these 4 stones and basically kills this one. I think the double pincer here is going to be worth the loss of this area over here. So I think Tanuki was probably a mistake. I might have gone over this at the beginning. Maybe not this D18 move in particular, but D18 is definitely not the right move here. Black has to play at C18. When you play here, it's as if you played here, white played here, and instead of cutting, you just back off, which means that white ends up getting this really great shape here. So blocking here and then not playing this Hana here is definitely going to be a loss for black. And then just to go over that variation, the kind of common variation that you'll see with this is something like this, where white will get Sente, or maybe come back and play here. White will get Sente, black will get a small corner, and white will get a little bit of influence on the outside. That's I would say, the common variation that you'll see with this. You might also see this as well, where black will still take a small side, white will play here, and white can either choose to get Sente or choose to get Gote, depending on if it wants to answer this 16 move or this H17 move, depending on the situation. But those are your most common variations with the C18 move. Black just playing a D18, extending down is too much. It's just really nice shape for white. There's no weakness in white shape, and black's only getting about 2 to 3 points here. So definitely a big loss. I think that blocking here and putting pressure on these 2 stones, blocking at C18 and putting pressure on these 3 stones, is worth more than a move on the side. If black plays here now this black group is perfectly alive, and you're basically taking away the entire corner for white. So I think that C18 is probably worth it, even though it seems a little counterintuitive, because it's not that many points, but it's also because you're putting pressure on these 3 stones. And again, a general rule of thumb: corners are larger than sides. So if we can play a corner move, we'd probably rather play a corner move than this side move at C9. So even if we were to play elsewhere, we'd probably rather play here or here, or even something over here, than playing a side move over here. And I think I mentioned this at the start of the call. I don't know if you guys were on it yet, Jerry and Jaden, but you usually want to have a nice balance of low stones and high stones. And the reason for that is, if you were to have, let me go back a second. Do we know why we usually play on the 3rd and 4th line? Why that's the kind of the common. Yeah, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, we just went over the game. Yes, and it is being recorded. Does anyone know why we usually see the game revolve around the 3rd and 4th lines? Why most of the play is going to be on the 3rd line or the 4th line? Any thoughts into that?
Because it's hard to attack.
Which, right? Which one's hard to attack, third or fourth?
Third?
Attack in what way? So it's not a bad answer, but I think I want to hint at something that may be a little bit more fundamental than that.
I'll just say that it's the best balance between territory and influence, maybe.
That's exactly right. So without spending the time to do all the stones, if you were to put stones around the third line, so this whole C line here, this whole 3 line here, if you were to put stones around that and then count the territory on the inside of that, so basically the 2 rows and all the sides here, so the AB rows, the ST rows, the 19 and 18 rows, and the 1 and 2 rows, and then you do the same for the 4th line, so the D row and the 4 row, you're to do that all around, you would get roughly an even result. It would be the only way in which you can have a similar point spread between influence and territory. Now, I believe territory is still a little bit larger, which is why I think that people prefer to play moves on the 3rd line as opposed to the 4th line, or prefer to be a little bit territory oriented versus influence oriented. But it's a really good kind of idea to keep in mind, where you want to have that nice balance between the two, because you're able to get a little bit of influence and you're able to get a little bit of territory. So this kind of idea of playing all your moves on the 3rd line might be just a little bit too territory oriented, and you lose out on potential influence. A little bit of an abstract concept, but does that make sense as to why we see moves on the 3rd and 4th lines? I'll take silence as gold, or just want me to continue, no worries. But yeah, I would have much rather white play here. This is much nicer shape. It adds an extra 2 or 3 points as well, and it also gives a little bit more pressure onto this F3 stone. We typically don't see moves on the side as often anymore, because we've generally decided that corners are more important than sides. So again, what you're going to typically see nowadays is just this very boring variation. It's kind of this stock variation where black will make some territory here and white will make some influence here. Playing on the side allows our opponent to just play a larger corner move, and it's generally regarded that this side territory is just not going to be as much as this corner territory. Oh no, Mike, have you been recording the whole time? You don't have audio on this? Oh, you do have audio. Okay, great.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Yep.
If you're recording it on OGS, I don't think you're getting any of the voice. Okay. So you're recording the screen through a different thing. Okay. Very good, because that way there's no indication for the people that it's being recorded.
As long as you have it, I don't think we mind how.
No, that's correct.
So kind of again, why we wouldn't see K3 too often. You're usually going to see this D3 move. Coming back here is a really vital spot for the same reasons I talked about. Again, this group might not be locally alive if black were to get a move at an 18. So definitely an important move over here. So I would say this move is a little bit questionable. Anyone want to take a stab as to why this might be questionable? This D10 move. No audience.
I'm guessing it doesn't work well with the Moyo.
Who's Moyo?
Black's Moyo.
It's not that it necessarily doesn't work well, but I don't think it really helps the Moyo all that much. I don't think it's mapping out the right point of the Moyo, certainly. Any other thoughts?
It helps white get stronger, because white has strength on both sides there.
Yeah, it's helping white get stronger. White's able to, this is a weak group over here. This is a weak group over here. I think that this is going to be an advantageous fight for white. And at the very worst, white's going to get a lot of territory here. What you'd rather do is try to attack the life of this white group, right? This not necessarily yet. This isn't what you want to do right now. I would say right now, it would be better to protect the corner in some way. This is kind of the important part of the board for me, this kind of double wing formation. This is what I would focus on. But if you ever did want to come back, you'd want to be a little bit more aggressive and actually put pressure on these stones. Whereas this just gives white a reason to protect. And the problem with it is, you're making an exchange here that isn't necessarily, I don't know who said it before, but it's not necessarily helping your outside. So you're making a profitable exchange for white without necessarily getting something out of it. So it's possible that this could become a good move later on, but I think right now it's not really getting black very much. So I'll just continue a little bit. So, when we look at this, black gained 3 stones here. Are these 3 stones really connecting to much of anything? Not especially. I think it would be better just to have played whatever black was going to play afterwards, right? If white plays if white plays here, where would black play next? Well, black would probably come back and play here, or come back and play something over here, right? Would these 3 stones, these extra couple moves here, really have done that much? Probably not. I also, if connect here, I probably would just leave it after I've made this move, because I don't think that adding this extra move is going to be that much of a value add for white. I don't think adding this extra move at C11 is going to help all that much. And I think if anything, it makes black's eventual block more damaging when black blocks here, because now there's even less space for white to run out. So I think this actually might hurt this group even more when black does eventually block. Whereas if you stop now, white plays here, black plays here, there's a little bit more wiggle room for white to play with. White extend out to here to make the eye space if it needs to. So extending that far might actually be an issue. Sorry. So this is okay. This is all fine. No big deal. This is kind of an interesting position because it's unclear whether you'd rather play a move here or you'd rather play a move here. And so because of that, I probably wouldn't want to play either, to be perfectly frank. I'd probably want to focus maybe on this side of the board where black is mapping out a significant amount of territory. If you play here and black plays here, okay, black has made territory. If you played here and black plays here, okay, black has made territory, black is light. Because I don't know which one is really better for me right now, I'd rather play a move elsewhere, so I don't necessarily have to make that decision. And so something like this might be nice to reduce the framework. What you don't want to have happen is something here. You don't want black to get this nice double information because it's solidifying 40 or so points on the side and also making a higher base for this territory that black is mapping out over here. I don't think it's going to be possible for black to really get a severe attack on this group yet. And especially after white plays a move like this, now black has to contend with this weak group, these 4 weak stones here, and also these 4 weak stones here. I think that it's not going to be too hard for this black group to live here, but now black also has the other group to manage. So I think probably cutting here might have been a little bit questionable. If I were black in this position, I probably would have just played something like this. Or something like this. Maybe something like this. Just try to connect up the 2 groups. I wouldn't try to fight it out. These 3 stones aren't that important, and it's going to be tough for white to really separate the groups. So I think that trying to cut here just makes it so that white gets that vital move at 14. And again, I don't foresee an issue with black living here, but I think that black will probably need to add another move in order for black to action, which means that white gets another move to attack these 4 stones. And this move is something you make when you're pretty confident in the kill. You know, these 3 stones we can say are not going to die because they're going to connect up to the stone at C6, right? That's pretty safe. These 7 stones here are also not going to die because they're going to connect out to their friends over here. So what do we disconnect? This is just a points move. This is not a territory. This is not an attack. And then you have to remember that this black group here is weak. So okay, black sends an extra move to play here. Now you have to remember that this black group. So white's going to be able to play here. So when we start to look at this, you know, we played a small move here to have a weak group. It's not really what we want to be doing. We definitely want to connect here. Giving up this stone is huge because it's sent down. And now white can play elsewhere without having to risk this group ever dying. So not playing is really quite large. Right, not connecting at F16. Definitely don't want to do that. Thank you for the conversation. Appreciate the feedback. Yeah, so this is just, again, a really tough position for black because you have this really weak group here and this really strong white group on the outside that's going to be able to put a lot of pressure on the stones. When you have a lot of strength on the outside, you're able to play moves that you wouldn't normally get away with. So, for example, I'm not sure if black needs to answer here. It doesn't look like it. But let's say black had to answer here. White's able to play a move like this and really get a severe attack on the stones. If black were to try to jump, white's going to be able to seal it in. Similarly, if white tries to jump here, white will be able to sacrifice and seal it in. So while you might not kill the group, you're making a lot of profit on the outside. So a few more moves. So white extends here. I would only play these moves if they're absolutely vital for the group to live. I'm not sure that's the case in this position. I think that black can ignore without having to worry about it. We can take a look. Black plays here, black plays here, black plays here, black plays here. There's no issue with the group living. If we were to play here, black plays here, again, no issues with the group living. So because of that, playing these moves on the first line when we could be playing elsewhere is just going to be a big local loss for us. So once the group's alive, you really want to be playing elsewhere because you're making your opponent stronger by playing this move at Q19, right? So if I play Q19, my opponent gets this free move on the outside, when realistically what I should be aiming for is maybe a clamp here or a cut here later on that could have some amount of value. So even though it feels like you're getting something, what you're really doing is you're making this white group even stronger on the outside. And of course, white could also just play away because this area is no longer important. Like that move I suggested before and map out quite a lot of center turn. Or of course, this Q4 move that I said earlier, which is going to completely wipe out quite a lot of the framework that black has mapped out. So unfortunately, you can't really cut, because black has these 3 stones here, the position is a little bit stronger. You're not going to be able to cut this stone. So I wouldn't even bother trying, because now what you have to deal with is a weak black group, a weak white group on that side. Certainly, you could also play like here if you just want to keep it simple. But either way, these exchanges only help black because it makes black stronger on the outside. So I don't think trying to cut here now would be appropriate. Do we have the players for the next round yet, or are they not here yet? I'll do another minute or two, and then Sean can kick me off. So, again, just looking at this fight, it seems like there's quite a lot of stuff going on, where there's the weak white group here, weak white group here. I don't think that this fight is going to be advantageous, even though white has a ton of strength here. I don't think approaching this fight in this way with is going to be advantageous. I think it's going to be a little bit more risky than it's worth. So now white has these 2 weak stones on the outside, and they're not small because it's going if black were to capture this, you know, black's going to make 10, 15 points. These stones are almost too big to give up at this point. I think this ended up becoming quite nice for white, though. I think what black probably should have done is after white plays here, connect here. If white tries to fight, you can try to get something out of it. Do something like this and play in this type of way where you're able to get a little bit of outward influence. I think that when you play like this, even though it's maybe the safer option, you're basically giving white that territory that you were trying to take away from white before. So I think this is going to be advantageous for white, especially because there is this this cutting point here for white. And so this ends up becoming quite a lot. So maybe this tiger's mouth was a little bit questionable, and should have been here. And you just have to kind of find it out.